I think the funniest thing about this whole situation to me is that people are pointing out that Lightlark is getting bad reviews as like proof that the author is an industry plant, which is just so funny because I hate to break it to you, bad art gets made all the time without the help of the industry. That's it. That's my intro. Hi, I'm Amanda, you're watching Swell Entertainment, and today we are talking about another potential TikTok industry plant, and by potential, I mean I extremely doubt it. I'm going to talk about all the facets of this and all of that, but I truly don't think that Alex Astor is an industry plant, because I think you misunderstand what an industry plant is. They're also calling her a nepotism baby and talking about privilege, which are, there are things that can coincide. Multiple things can exist at one time, but I think they're conflating everything together, which is just not what I think is happening here. So I talked about booktok and the Cult of Booktok video because for my What's Not a Cult But Feels Like a Cult series, I thought that booktok was in fact technically a cult because it's a community that has a lot of sway over the actual publishing industry and the traditional publishing and indie publishing sphere. And, you know, they can take an author who, you know, previously was, for lack of a better word, a failure in publishing and make them a bestseller within one viral video. And I think that that power constitutes a cult. Sorry, people are going to be mad. My point with bringing up my booktok video is that I talked about Alex in that video as a success story of booktok and a example of booktok's power over publishing in the book industry. I should stop being surprised by how quickly TikTok's opinions of things can sway and change because it happens weekly. Let's talk a little bit about Lightlark. So this is from the article about Alex Astor getting a 6-figure book deal because of TikTok. Astor's struck TikTok gold once again, this time with a March 13 teaser video for her YA novel Lightlark. At the time of this writing, the video has racked up 1.2 million views, 278,000 likes, and more than 7,000 comments. And it's just scored Astor a 6-figure book deal with Amulet Books. Within a week after the video went viral, Astor tells Bustle, Lightlark was at auction and I was offered 6 figures. Publishers saw the huge audience that already, just based on the premise, were so enamored with the concept. Lightlark centers on a once-in-a-century competition between the rulers of 6 realms, each whom is afflicted with a wicked, fatal curse. In a bid to break their curses, the 6 combatants do battle with one another, knowing that one must die so that the others may live. In the midst of all of this is one woman, Isla Crown, who must pick her way through a deadly web of intrigue if she wants to make it out of the game alive. But she soon finds her victory campaign waylaid by a romantic entanglement. Here is the video itself. So I can't play you the audio because copyright, but this is the video that racked up the views. And at this time it has 1.8 million plays, 364,000 likes, 8,000 comments, you know, and 5,000 shares. A bunch of people saying I would read this. Bunch of positive comments. I shouldn't be surprised it turns so quickly. So this article also talks about some of her other things that she had been working on in 2020. She had her debut song Divine come out, which they said went viral. I don't know if 150,000 videos on TikTok is, I would say, pretty viral on TikTok. And she published her first book, a middle grade novel titled The Curse of the Night Witch, which if you see a bunch of her stuff of her signing books from a few months ago, that's what she's signing. She's signing The Curse of the Night Witch at various bookstores and things like that. So she already had a middle grade book technically in publishing or published, which received a Kirkus star and was chosen as one of Amazon's best children's books of 2020. So she has a starting point, which I mentioned in my video as well. And I think some people are talking about that as like another reason that she's an industry plant. Okay, maybe the confusion comes in because they just assume she's a debut novel, which she's debuting technically in YA because this was a middle grade novel. But she announced recently that she sold the book rights to Universal, I believe, for Lightlark. And I think that's why people are screaming industry plant or that there's some shenanigans going on because the book is not out yet. At the time of me filming this, the book is not out yet. Some people got advanced reader copies or ARCs, but the book's not out yet. And so some people were convinced that that means that this whole thing was an industry plant. I live in LA. I have friends that work in the film and television industry, okay? And one of my friends works at a production company. She, as a low-level employee, can't exactly remember how she got a hold of the book before it came out, but either the publisher sent out the books the agent sent out the books or she requested it from somewhere. I don't know. But it's my understanding that it's not super uncommon for production companies to request early access or be sent early access for this very reason, because they're trying to sell the movie rights early on and they're trying to get, build hype before the book comes out. So my friend read the book, was obsessed with the book, and basically pitched it to the rest of the company and her bosses. And they were like, oh, okay, we can see this. So they started trying to figure out the best way to buy the movie rights while also figuring out how quickly they can start production and when they can do this. Sometimes it is just that one person in the company. Sometimes that's all it takes. Now, I'm not saying that's the same thing that happened with Universal, but it's a thing that happens. Sometimes it is just one person. And Victoria Aveyard talked about this as well.
How do books get movie deals before they are published? Because that is a confusing thought. And the answer is pretty simple and pretty logical. It's just good business. So movie studios, streamers, production companies, they have scouts, and the scouts are keeping tabs on the publishing industry. On new projects, on new books, what's going to be a lead title, who's a flashy debut that the publisher is really pushing. All of these things come back to the people who are making film and TV adaptations. And they're essentially trying to play the publishing industry like you would play the stock market. So they're trying to invest to buy an option, to buy rights to a story when its market value is low. So before it has proven itself to be a bestseller, because it is cheaper to buy it then. 3 weeks after I sold Red Queen in a 3-book deal to HarperCollins, it was announced that I had also been optioned by Universal Studios. Now, an option means they're basically paying me to sit on it. They're not paying for the rights. The rights negotiation is in that original contract, but they're paying me a much lower amount to give them the right to buy it later at the previously agreed upon price. It is not rare. It's not common either, but it's not nefarious or crazy or strange when you read that a book has been optioned or the rights purchased by a studio before a book comes out.
Victoria Aveyard is a YA author. She previously published the Red Queen series and is actively publishing her series, Realm Breaker. Maybe that's what happened with Alex, or what's happening with the film industry right now. They are desperate for movies. They are desperate for stories and shows. And it doesn't surprise me that Lightlark, even before it comes out, could potentially be bought up so quickly, because something like Shadow and Bone being made and how successful that was on Netflix, things like that, the industry is always looking at that. They're looking at, okay, this one thing worked, so we're only going to do this one thing for a hot minute and see how that works. So Lightlark being bought up, that does not surprise me. All of the signs are there for a potentially huge release for Lightlark. I have no idea what the pre-sale numbers are, the pre-order numbers, but my guess is they're pretty good. That's my guess, based on the marketing that Alex is doing. And we'll talk more about some of the marketing, because that's another issue. But the movie deal is not super weird to me. You may think of it as a red flag. I don't think it's that far out of the industry norm for the film industry. Not necessarily the publishing industry, but for the film industry. That does not surprise me. But the film deal, the movie deal, and Alex talking about the movie deal and like, oh my gosh, I had all these years of rejection, and then I had this movie deal, and now this is what's happening and all this stuff. That's where people started digging deeper and started throwing around the words industry plant, nepotism baby, and privilege. And though I do think we can all have those conversations, they're different things. A nepotism baby is, regardless of whatever you think of Alex, that's not what this is. It just isn't. Nepotism is where let's pull up the actual definition. Let's do that. The practice among those with power or influence of favoring relatives or friends, especially by giving them jobs. So say my dad works at a company, whether he owns the company or is high up in the company, and then I get hired over other people because he's my dad. That's nepotism. Established actors gifting their kids roles for their birthdays, that's nepotism. Half of working Hollywood right now, nepotism. Someone having privilege and coming from money and then getting a book deal, that's not nepotism. That's a totally separate thing. There's a privilege there. There is privilege. Having money is privilege. Secret parent money is a phrase that I'm very familiar with right now because that's half of Hollywood. That's a thing. Secret parent money is a thing. That is a privilege. I'm white. That's a privilege. Though we didn't grow up rich, my dad has always been very encouraging of me getting into any creative pursuit or anything in the entertainment industry. That in itself, having an encouraging parent in a very difficult industry is a privilege, but it's not nepotism, And so that's different because the other claim is because of Alex's sister. Alex has a twin sister named Daniela, and she is a millionaire. She sold her company for a ton of money. She's worked with Selena Gomez. She was on the cover of, I think, Entrepreneur magazine. And some people are pointing at that as how Alex was able to get a book deal, or that her sister gave her money for the book deal, and that it's the industry plant, like she concocted her own industry plant story. I don't know how many of you have siblings, but I'm going to be honest with you. I would buy my brother Taco Bell. I would not buy him a book deal. I just would not. Not that I have millions of dollars, but still. Basically, her sister founded the Newsette in college, which is a newsletter for women. The Newsette has 500,000 subscribers and averages 4 million monthly views. Sponsors include Ulta, Fidelity, and Bumble. She is on 30 Under 30 for Forbes. Daniela is. And again, people are pointing at that as proof that Alex has hidden something. The thing is that she's never hidden her sister. She literally did multiple videos, I believe, where she went into a Barnes & Noble to like sign copies of The Night Witch and went over to the magazine section to get photos of the fact that her and her sister were both in Barnes & Noble at the same time because her sister was on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine. That's not something that she's hidden. Oh yeah, I saw someone say it's like, yeah, her sister's worked with Selena Gomez. Of course she's an industry plant. It's so funny to me. Let me get the definition of confirmation bias now. The tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation for one's pre-existing beliefs and theories. So again, book bad, therefore industry plant. You see? You get my point? This is insane. I meant to tell you what an industry plant was because that's the whole point of this video. The term industry plant developed during the 2010s on the rap music message board on the forum Kanye to the rappers from Waka Flocka Flame, Lil Wayne, and 50 Cent were cited as industry plants. Although its usage has gained popularity, there is a lack of consensus about its definition. However, Rolling Stone defines industry plant as artists who are label-backed but present themselves as self-made. Another industry plant potential that I talked about last year was the tramp stamps on TikTok. And the running theme with why a lot of people thought they were industry plants where, again, people thought the music was bad, which, again, not the point. But they had individual careers. They were doing okay. One of them was a songwriter. Another one of them had her own music career and then also was songwriting. And the other one had a music career. But they weren't, like, popping off individually. And so the thought was that the label put them all together and packaged them as, like, the pop punk girl group type of thing, or girl punk or whatever it was, and was like, here you go, Gen Z like us, you know, that type of thing. And that's why a lot of people believe them to be industry plants. The reason that I personally think they were industry plants is that once they went viral from all of that, instead of using that as like, oh my gosh, heck yeah, we can use this, more eyes are on us, they have basically dissolved. I think they all went back to making their own music. But I can see why the company would see that as like, okay, we failed. Next, you know, they don't like you. Let's move forward. Something else. Versus where I think that if this was like an artist's dream type of thing where it's like, let's make a band, let's all be together, let's do this. I feel like they would have saw that as an opportunity for new music or new promotion than anything else. Everyone's sensitive. I mean, who knows how I would react in that situation? So, I mean, I could be wrong. But, I mean, at the very least, from a business perspective, industry plants are not that, like, I think it was a bag fumbling. She is self-promoting, which is something that artists have to do these days. And many other artists, musicians, actors, writers even have talked about, like, I have to promote myself because the publisher's not doing it. I have to try and get viral on TikTok so that my book won't be a flop. I have to do that. They've been saying that for months now. And so Alex routinely talking about her book and promoting her book and trying to get you excited about her book is not a red flag in and of itself. The entirety of social media is self-promotion, whether you're a content creator like me or not. I have not read the book. I have no idea if it's going to be good or not. I have not pre-ordered the book. I have no idea if it's going to be good or not. I'm more fascinated by the business side of this than anything. I have kind of tried to move away from reading YA just because it's not doing anything for me anymore. That's just the reality of the situation. I'm trying to read adult books. Certain YA books, they suck me in and I read them all. I believe I'm in new adult and then smut now. And like everyone gets murdered in the woods. That's what I'm reading right now. Okay, I'm trying to move away from YA. It's just not doing it for me anymore. So I actually had no intention of reading Lightlark, frankly. I was following the story because, again, I follow a lot of these TikTok stories and I like seeing what's going on in publishing and all of that. I am actively trying to write a book right now and trying to get it made. God, that makes me wonder because, okay, Alex had The Curse of the Night Witch, so she already had an agent. At the very least, she had an agent, okay? Maybe she hadn't sold Lightlark. She didn't have them. Maybe she pitched it to them, or she's been pitching it to people because she says she's been rejected from 17 publishers and stuff like that.
In one of her TikToks, she does say that her agent dropped her because she wouldn't stop trying to get Lightlark made. But there is also some speculation there because in a different TikTok or in an interview, she said that she was dropped because The Curse of the Night Witch didn't perform well, but also it did perform well. So there is conflicting information coming from Alex.
Who knows what the rejection is? Maybe she's counting no response as a rejection. Who knows? I don't know. But there's like the amount of times that people are talking, like 10 years of failure. She's 27. I mean, I have had an English teacher look me in the face and call me stupid, because of my dyslexia. That is a rejection. If I said I want to write books, that counts as a rejection. So it's like, the age thing is always so weird to me because some people are like, yay, young authors. And then other people are like, why are you 27 saying that you haven't done enough? But I wonder because she's had previous success in other things, then her trying to have success with Lightlark or Lightlark being successful in any capacity, that's not seen as warranted or like earned. It's seen as taken. And so I do wonder if, like, let's say I sell my book tomorrow, if I sell it to someone and it gets published, are people going to see that as me using YouTube as a platform and therefore I'm skipping steps, Like, I do wonder how that would go. Yeah, does that take away from the fact that I wrote the book? Does that take away from the fact that I was able to pitch it to someone and sell it? Does that take away from that? Because I previously have a platform and I've made money on my own outside of publishing. I don't know. It's something for me to think about personally. This is a privilege. I acknowledge that. I don't think there's anything wrong with acknowledging that you have privilege, but I don't think that privilege negates work. It's one thing if she, I think what's fascinating is no one's accusing her of having a ghostwriter, which my guess is, not that I think that she has a ghostwriter, but that's something that I hear thrown around a lot on TikTok. Like, oh, you must have a ghostwriter, or ghostwriters are claiming that they've written these crazy successful series for authors so that they can try and build up and get new clients. One of the claims that is being made from people who have read the advanced reader copies, who got them, they are frustrated with the representation because Alex is Latina and there is not a lot of Latina or Latino representation within the book itself. I believe she advertised it as being incredibly diverse and all of that, which if you do that, you're fucked if you don't have diversity. I think that's the case with anything. I don't think it's fair to demand diversity from her or that her book must only have Latino representation or anything like that just because she's Latina. I don't think that's fair. But again, I'm white. I don't have a skin in the game. I can't talk about that. So there are people who have said that a lot of the TikTok that she has made where she's talking about certain scenes and things like that she is misrepresenting the book and doing false marketing, and that the scenes that she talked about in Lightlark are not in the book. And so from that, I would assume that she didn't write the book, if that is where the disconnect is. However, I know she's working on Lightlark 2. She's already talking about book 2 on her website. And also, a lot of authors work on multiple books at one time. Chloe Gong is another author that I've talked about from BookTok and all of that. Her series, These Violent Delights, she's doing Foul Lady Fortune right now. She has a bunch of other books coming out. And those books, she works on 2 to 3 manuscripts at a time, it's seeming, because her output is fucking insane. I don't know how she's not losing her mind, frankly. From everyone that I've spoken to who is trying to get their debut novel published, or who has gotten their novels published, they've always said that, oh, publishers want you to have more than one book ready to go, or that, yeah, this is what you have. What's next? What else do you have? What are you working on next? Have to go back and check. But if she tagged those scenes as Lightlark, then there's the issue.
Alex, come on. I'm trying to make this fair, but you're not making this very easy on me. So yes, all of these videos are in fact tagged Lightlark. Apparently, there is a romance edition of Lightlark that has about 2 bonus chapters between the main character and the love interest. More adult scenes in them, spice scenes as TikTok calls them, could be where the disconnect is for some of these scenes. Because the advanced reader copies that they're getting are probably the, standard published versions and not the special editions that I believe are being only published through Barnes & Noble. So those books would not have the extra chapters, potentially. And that could be where the issue is with the missing scene. It's not good. It doesn't answer the question. It doesn't solve the mystery, but it's a possible reason for why those scenes are missing.
I believe she's trying to say that maybe Lightlark is YA, Lightlark is being advertised as YA, but I think this sequel, if I remember correctly, she's saying is new adult. New adult is basically YA, but the ages are like 18 to like, I think 24, 25. So it's like YA, but they can bone. The same ease of reading YA, but like they actually can bone. You know, it's not fade to black. Maybe that's what she's talking about. Maybe her next series is new adult. But again, if she tagged them all Lightlark, then yeah, it's false advertising. And I can't defend that.
I talk a lot about marketing on TikTok because I do think TikTok for books, music, movies, everything is an incredible marketing tool. However, it needs to be used properly. And I have seen a lot of people who have responded to these particular claims of the scenes or lines not being in the book as, what did you expect? The book writing process is long. Just because it's involved in the writing does not mean it's going to make the final edit. These TikToks are not framed as if Alex is bringing us in on the writing process of Lightlark. They are pitched as advertising. Hey, look what's in my book. Doesn't this scene sound great? It's in my book, Lightlark. It's marketing. It's advertising. She is promoting her book. And that's fine, but then when those scenes are not in the book, that's where it becomes false advertising. If it was, hey guys, I'm working on my book, here's a scene I'm working on, or something like that, that is different. And that's not the same thing as what people are complaining about here.
If the book is bad, I don't know. I haven't read it. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of BookTok's recommendations, they don't do it for me. And I'm not just talking about YA. I'm talking about like books that they've recommended where they're like, this is the greatest book of all time. And I'm like, this was written by an avocado with a marker. Like, this is not good. It happens. It's fine. Everyone has different tastes. And again, just because I didn't like a book doesn't mean that you're wrong for liking the book. And that's where I think the disconnect is coming here. Side note, because I have to do this apparently, no one is paying me to make this video. There's not even a sponsor on this video. No one is paying me to make this video. I think it's gonna get views, so I'm making it. So I'm talking about this situation because this situation is fascinating to me. There's literally a girl, I'm gonna pull up her account because I like her account. She's known as the BookTok News Girl, where she literally, all of her content is talking about updates in BookTok and publishing and all of that. Great account. I was following her before all of this. Her name is Maddie Lim. She goes by LimMaddie8. Check her out. Again, great content. She does basically updates on BookTok news, on the drama in the BookTok community, drama and publishing. I believe she's talking about the court case that's happening right now. She was talking about Lightlark and just like kind of defending it and just basically being like, I haven't read the book, but here's my thoughts on it. And someone commented saying that this account had been paid by Alex Astor's team. That's the only explanation for it, for her talking about Lightlark. More zeros than I've seen in my life, the author who got a 6-figure deal via BookTok. After she was dropped by her agent, Alex Astor's turned to a book-obsessed corner of TikTok to gauge interest in her YA novel, and now Lightlark is one of the most eagerly anticipated releases of the year. I don't know the details, but it's my, hey, you sold this book for middle grade and now you want to do YA? Why? That makes sense, you know, different agents market in different books. You know, that doesn't surprise me. The next day, however, she woke up to see her video had been viewed more than 1 million times. A week later, Lightlark had gone to auction and she had a 6-figure deal with Amulet Books. Alex, you don't need to comment on any of this at this point. You have said that, because people are saying that she is privileged because her parents have money. They own a car dealership, I believe. She said so herself. And so therefore, again, they paid for her to be published. Public figures can get books published very easily. That's why you see a lot of politicians, actors, musicians getting their book deals and all of that. They are paid for those because they are told that that's going to sell because they already have a built-in audience. So it doesn't surprise me that potentially publishing saw the views on the video and thought, let's give her a book deal. But I feel like the gap between, like, how did your book get to auction a week later? You know, I feel like if you explain that a little more, that would help clear some things up, maybe. Because you go from not having an agent and rejection to suddenly your book's at auction. So was it plucked from a slush pile? How did it get to auction? That's the only gap that I can explain away for you at this point. Again, the book potentially being bad, you don't have to like the book. You don't have to like it. You have every right to not like it. That's fine. Again, I talked about secret parent money and all of that. That is a privilege to have. That does not automatically mean that she found a way to finagle her book deal through shenanigan means. You know, that's not proof of that.
For me in particular, and why I'm having such a difficult time believing the industry plant bit, is because even if her parents do have money, her sister has money, all this stuff, and there were opportunities she could be given to put her book in front of people and all of that, which I guess could fill in the auction gap. The TikTok viral video is the problem that I have here. It's kind of hard to fake a viral moment when you are mostly not a viral person. Every other argument that I see is not invalidated, but it calls into question because of the viral TikTok bit.
It can be proof that she had, the ability to stay at home and write. Victoria Aveyard has said, my parents were not rich, they were retired school teachers, but she has said that the reason that Red Queen was able to be made was after she graduated college, she was able to live at home for a year and not work and write. So she was able to write Red Queen in that time, which again, maybe not rich parent privilege, but supportive parent privilege. Again, I don't think there's wrong with acknowledging privilege that we have. Me having a YouTube channel, I have privilege because of that. Me having an audience on YouTube, I have privilege because of that. One of those privileges is being able to talk about whatever I want, including a potential industry plant, which again, I don't think she's an industry plant. I really don't. I think that there's certain facets missing for her to be an industry plant. And we would be seeing way more of her if she was an industry plant. The thing that I always hate about TikTok now is people are like, I've never seen her on my For You page, and I'm very involved in BookTok. That really proves nothing. There's drama on one side of BookTok, and the other side of BookTok is just still talking about like Tessa Bailey novels. You can have different roads into BookTok. Same with the rest of TikTok. People, I think, still consider Charli D'Amelio an industry plant because she's one of the most followed accounts, and she's never been on my For You page. And it's like, yeah, there's millions of users on TikTok. TikTok farms followers. I don't think it farms community, which I've talked all about that. So the follower count could be nothing. You got to look at the view numbers and all of that. Frankly, I think that's the only way to gauge an accurate audience is by consistently looking at the most average number of views a video gets. That's really going to be it for this video. If you see this, I'm encouraging you to not review the book on Goodreads if you haven't read the book yet. I don't know why people are doing that. Some people are saying, oh, I've read it, and then they're not reading it,
I understand that people are mainly doing this because there were 5-star reviews of Lightlark on Goodreads, but yet they had no other books on their account that they had reviewed. So those may have been fake reviews. So they're like evening the score in some weird way by blocking it with bad reviews. I don't know. I think you're just kind of invalidating Goodreads as a whole platform when you do things like this. That's my opinion.
Goodreads is touch and go at this point. I just use it to track books. I use Storygraph as well. I use both. I don't think you should rate something 5 stars before you've read the book, and I don't think you should give it 1 star when you haven't read the book, just because you don't like what the author's doing. But I mean, hey, someone's trying to cancel the entire literary world, including William Shakespeare right now on Twitter, so who knows? Who knows what the future of all this holds? We have a court battle happening right now about whether or not publishing can have a monopoly, and it's just kind of going to show that they really have no idea what the fuck they're doing, like at all. Have you heard about Lightlark? Did you get an advanced reader copy? Have you heard anything about Alex Astor prior to this? Or did you watch my Cult of BookTok video? What do you think? Do you understand the difference between a nepotism baby, an industry plant, and privilege? Let me know. Comment down below. Reminder, I have a podcast, the Swell Entertainment podcast. Reminder, I have merch like that mug back there. Shout out to my Patreon. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. You could also explore my Patreon. They'll be listed down below. If I follow me on my social media, that'll be all up here. And that's going to be a couple of a day. Goodbye. The whole confirmation bias with the industry plan argument of all of this kind of reminds me of this one guy who was in my DMs yelling at me constantly because I was getting brand deals for like brands. Like I did a Tommy John's brand deal, and he was like, I know how expensive that underwear is. Who is your dad? And then I went on Dr. Phil, and this guy was convinced that my dad was like some high level person in Hollywood. And that's how I was getting all these opportunities.
Thank you, Alan, Cameron, Christopher, Chris, Crash PC, China, Davion, David, Dirty One, Don, Elliot, Evan, Eric, Hopeless, Incognito, Jekka Ray, Joe, John N, Jordan, Joseph, Kenny, Kim, Kristen, Lamb, Lex, Lisa, Louise, Matt, O, Matthew S, Meme Lord, Michael, Michael J, Micah, Nathan, Nathaniel, Pat, Penn, Richard, Rob, Red, Robert, Ross, Sam, Serena, Skylar, Simon, Tasha, Timothy, Tom, Wendy, Williams, Andrews, Wink.